Most men do not lose control because life is too hard. They lose control because their reactions are too easy to access. A careless comment can change their mood. A delayed text can disturb their focus. A disrespectful tone can pull anger out of them before they even understand what happened. A bad day at work can follow them home and poison the way they speak to the people closest to them. And the worst part is this: in the moment, overreacting does not feel like weakness. It feels like self-respect. It feels like honesty. It feels like finally refusing to be pushed around. But if one sentence from another person can take command of your voice, your breathing, your discipline, and your decisions, then you are not defending your power. You are giving someone proof that they can move you. Stoicism begins exactly here. Not in a book, not in a quote, not in pretending you feel nothing. It begins in the small space between what happens to you and what you do next. That space is where your life is either governed or surrendered. The first Stoic habit is the sacred pause. When someone disrespects you, your first instinct will be to strike back. When you receive bad news, your mind will rush to panic. When someone ignores you, your ego will want to create a story. But the first reaction is rarely your wisest reaction. It is usually the loudest part of the wound. So pause, not because you are afraid. Pause because your reaction is expensive. Every angry reply reveals something. Every desperate explanation gives away leverage. Every emotional outburst tells the world where your button is. And once people know where your button is, they do not need to defeat you. They only need to press it. A Stoic man does not deny the heat in his chest. He simply refuses to let that heat become his master. He breathes. He waits. He lets the first emotional wave pass. Then he responds from discipline, not damage. This is the first step toward becoming emotionally untouchable. The second habit is to separate the event from your identity. Most pain is not created by the event itself. It is created by the meaning you attach to it. A woman pulls away, and you decide you are not enough. A boss criticizes your work, and you decide you are being disrespected. A friend cancels plans, and you decide nobody values you. But those are not facts. Those are interpretations. The event is simple. Your ego makes it personal. This is why two men can experience the same rejection and react in opposite ways. One man collapses because he turns rejection into a verdict on his worth. The other man observes it, learns from it, and keeps moving. The difference is not the event. The difference is identity. The Stoic man treats events as information. Not every rude person is attacking your value. Not every delay is disrespect. Not every mistake is proof that you are failing. Not every silence is abandonment. Sometimes reality is just reality. And when you stop marrying every event to your identity, you stop bleeding from wounds that were never actually opened. The third habit is to expect reality before it arrives. Many men overreact because they are secretly shocked that life is imperfect. They expect people to be fair. They expect loyalty to be returned. They expect hard work to be noticed. They expect plans to go smoothly. They expect love, friendship, business, and family to obey the script in their head. Then reality breaks the script. Someone disappoints them. Someone misunderstands them. Someone acts selfishly. A plan fails. A relationship changes. A person they trusted reveals a side they did not want to see. And because they expected reality to be cleaner than it is, they react like they have been betrayed by the universe. Stoicism does not make you negative. It makes you prepared. You wake up knowing people may be difficult. Plans may change. Effort may not be rewarded immediately. Someone may misread your silence. Someone may test your patience. Something may go wrong. So when it happens, you are not emotionally ambushed. You are ready. The weak man says, "This should not be happening." The stoic man says, "This is happening. What is the correct move?" That one question saves your strength. Because peace begins when you stop arguing with reality. The fourth habit is to guard your mental space. A man cannot live in chaos all day and expect calm to appear on command. Your mind is shaped by what you repeatedly allow into it. The people you talk to, the content you consume, the arguments you join, the drama you tolerate, the environments you return to, all of it trains your emotional baseline. If you spend your days around reactive people, reaction starts to feel normal. If you surround yourself with complaining, your mind learns to scan for problems. If you keep toxic people close because of history, you will keep paying for access that should have expired long ago. Your peace is not public property. Not every person deserves your energy. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every argument deserves your presence. Not every emotional storm deserves a seat inside your mind. A stoic man becomes selective. Not cold. Selective. He knows mental space is limited. He knows attention is costly. He knows one conversation can disturb an entire day if he keeps giving access to people who feed on reaction. So he protects the gate. This is not weakness. It is strategy. A man who keeps walking into fire should not brag about surviving burns. He should ask why he keeps entering the room. And this leads to the fifth habit. Use anger as fuel, not fire. Anger is not always the enemy. Sometimes anger shows you that a boundary was crossed. Sometimes it reveals where you tolerated too much. Sometimes it wakes up ambition that comfort had buried. But anger becomes destructive when it demands immediate expression. That is when it burns your words. It burns trust. It burns timing. It burns reputation. It burns the image of self-control you may have spent years building. The stoic man does not worship emotional release. He redirects. If someone doubts him, he does not waste energy proving his worth in the moment. He builds quietly. If someone rejects him, he does not beg them to reverse the verdict. He studies what the rejection exposed. If someone disrespects him, he does not turn the scene into a performance. He becomes more precise, more disciplined, and harder to provoke. This is the difference between pain and power. A weak man lets anger burn down his own house. A governed man uses the same fire to forge structure. That is how overreaction begins to die. Not because you feel less, because you obey less. The sixth stoic habit is to stop fighting imaginary futures. A large part of overreaction does not come from what is happening. It comes from what your mind predicts might happen. You imagine losing your job. You imagine being abandoned. You imagine failing publicly. You imagine falling behind every other man your age. You imagine a conversation going badly before it even begins. You imagine disrespect, betrayal, collapse, and humiliation before reality has presented any evidence. Then your body reacts as if the imagined disaster is already here. This is how anxiety steals control. It turns your imagination into a battlefield and forces your nervous system to fight ghosts. A Stoic man returns to the present. He asks, "What is actually required of me right now? Not tomorrow, not next year, not in the worst-case movie playing inside his head. Right now, make the call, send the email, train the body, fix the mistake, have the conversation, wait without panicking, sleep instead of spiraling, do the next clean thing." The future may need planning, but anxiety is not planning. Planning gives you a step, anxiety gives you a storm, and a man who lives inside imaginary futures will overreact to real life because he is already exhausted before the moment arrives. The seventh habit is to remove yourself from the opinion market. Many men are emotionally unstable because their value is publicly traded. A compliment lifts them. Criticism destroys them. Attention makes them feel powerful. Silence makes them feel invisible. Approval makes them confident. Rejection makes them question everything. That is not strength. That is dependence. If another person's opinion can build your identity, their opinion can also break it. Stoicism teaches internal validation. You stop asking, "Did they notice?" You ask, "Did I act according to my standard? Did I keep my word? Did I stay disciplined under pressure? Did I tell the truth without begging to be understood? Did I leave the situation with my self-respect intact? Did I avoid making a permanent decision from a temporary emotion? If yes, then you do not need applause." This is where many men become harder to trigger, not because they think they are above everyone. That is just ego wearing a colder mask. They become harder to trigger because their value is no longer available for public negotiation. Someone can misunderstand them. They remain. Someone can criticize them. They check for truth, discard the rest, and remain. Someone can ignore them. They do not collapse into panic. This is emotional independence, and it is rare. But there is a deeper truth here. Some men call their overreaction self-respect. They say, "I will not let anyone disrespect me." Sometimes that is true. Boundaries matter. But sometimes that sentence hides a fragile ego that cannot tolerate discomfort. Not every reaction is self-respect. Some reactions are insecurity trying to look principled. Self-respect can walk away. Insecurity needs the other person to admit they were wrong. Self-respect sets a boundary and moves. Insecurity keeps checking whether the other person noticed the boundary. That difference is everything. The eighth habit is voluntary stillness. Most men are not afraid of silence because silence is empty. They are afraid of silence because silence is honest. with no phone, no music, no work, no argument, no woman, no performance, and no distraction. A man is left with himself, and many men discover they do not know how to sit there. Regret rises, fear rises, anger rises, shame rises. The feeling of falling behind rises. The suspicion that he is not as grounded as he pretends begins to speak. So he escapes. He scrolls. He drinks. He works too much. He checks messages. He starts unnecessary arguments. He fills every quiet space because stillness threatens to show him what noise has been hiding. But Stoicism does not allow endless escape. Sit for 10 minutes. No screen. No sound. No performance. Just sit. At first, it may not feel peaceful. It may feel irritating. That irritation is the training. It shows how addicted the mind has become to movement, stimulation, and avoidance. But slowly, you learn something powerful. An emotion can rise without becoming an order. A thought can appear without becoming truth. A memory can hurt without controlling the next decision. This is where real freedom begins. Not in public, in silence. Because if you cannot be alone with your own mind, you will use the world to avoid yourself. And whatever helps you avoid yourself will eventually control you. The 9th habit is to zoom out before you react. When you are triggered, your perspective shrinks. A rude comment feels like war. A delayed message feels like disrespect. A mistake feels like failure. A rejection feels like identity collapse. One bad day starts pretending to be your whole life. This is how disproportion destroys men. The event may be small, but the reaction becomes huge. A 5-minute emotion creates a 5-year consequence. One night of anger damages a relationship. One impulsive message ruins leverage. One public outburst changes how people see you. One moment of wounded pride makes you betray the man you are trying to become. The Stoic man restores scale. He asks, will this matter in 1 year? Will I care about this in 5 years? Is this worth losing sleep? Is this worth becoming a smaller version of myself? Most things shrink under honest perspective. And when the event shrinks, the reaction must shrink with it. That is maturity, not indifference. Proportion. You give small things small energy. You give serious things serious attention. You stop treating every emotional spike as a command from heaven. This is the final layer of stopping overreaction forever. You do not become untouchable because nothing hurts you. That kind of man does not exist. You become untouchable because pain no longer gets to choose your character. You still feel anger, but anger becomes information. You still feel fear, but fear becomes a signal. You still feel rejection, but rejection becomes data. You still feel pressure, but pressure becomes training. The emotion is allowed to exist. It is not allowed to rule. That is the whole system. Pause before you respond. Separate the event from your identity. Expect reality before it arrives. Guard your mental space. Use anger as fuel, not fire. Stop fighting imaginary futures. Remove yourself from the opinion market. Practice stillness. Zoom out before you react. Each habit closes one doorway where overreaction enters. Impulse loses access. Ego loses access. Shock loses access. Toxic environments lose access. Anger loses the steering wheel. Anxiety loses the future. Approval loses the throne. Avoidance loses the hiding place. Disproportion loses the story. And slowly, a different man appears. Not louder, not colder, not more performative, more governed. He no longer needs to answer every disrespect. He no longer turns silence into panic. He no longer mistakes emotional intensity for truth. He no longer lets temporary feelings make permanent decisions. This is not easy. The old reaction will still rise. It will ask for your voice. It will ask for your hands. It will ask for one more message, one more argument, one more chance to prove that your wound is justified. But now you will see it, and seeing it creates choice. That choice is where Stoicism lives, not in quotes, not in aesthetics. In the moment when the old version of you reaches for control, and the new version refuses to hand it over, the world can still test you. People can still misunderstand you. Pressure can still find you. Loss can still hurt. Disrespect can still appear at your door. But none of it has to become your master. The final form of Stoic strength is not a man who feels nothing. It is a man who feels everything clearly and still does not betray himself. The world may touch the surface. It no longer owns the center.